basically what happened is I was gliding and my wing went into collapse into a stall mode behind me and crushed into a paper ball, and I fell 85 feet into the mountainside. I just remember the immediate onset of elongating myself and getting really stiff and being like, "Oh, this is gonna hurt. This is gonna be bad." And that moment of fear. But beneath all of that is still that willpower to live and to be human. And it has been severely suppressed. And that is really the ticket of getting back out of this.
Aloha, and welcome to the Sick Bird Podcast, where we explore the bright side to life's darkest moments. Today, we're privileged to welcome Neil Karstetter, a paragliding pilot, devoted husband, and an adventurous traveler who survived a catastrophic crash that nearly left him permanently disabled. With the unwavering support of his wife and a newfound perspective on life, Neil has redefined what it means to live fully. Through his incredible journey of recovery and resilience, Neil continues to inspire with his unshakable positivity and profound insights. Join us as we delve into Neil's remarkable story and celebrate his triumphant spirit on today's episode. Yeah, I'll just say, Neil, when I first met you two, though, there's certain people you meet in your life and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I get them. Like it just clicks right away. And, you saw me kind of setting all this up and then you came in and you started to share your story. And dude, I was immediately blown away. And then I'm looking at you and you look amazing. You're like walking around. You're just killing it already. I'm like, dude, I wouldn't believe what happened to you happened. Yeah, man, just thank you for being here. And thank you for just sharing some of that story with me. Cause you're already such an incredible dude. I'm so excited to, in as nice of a way as possible, to kind of talk to you about what happened, because your life is just this amazing testament to who you are.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you sharing that with me, Thomas. I really like the way that we met each other too. It was really organic. It wasn't like apply online and their filtering system. It was me stopping by the shop and seeing if we had any rental gear, and then I was like, "Hey, what are you guys doing in here?" And you're like, "Oh, we're doing a podcast for these survival stories." And I was like, well, I think I got one for you too, if you want to get me on. So
yeah, definitely.
I'm glad that we had that conversation and kind of got to get up to speed, and I'm really happy to be on the show.
Oh man, yeah. It's truly wonderful to have you. So if you feel comfortable with it, let's go back, because
Sure.
Again, you're telling me this story, and my jaw's on the ground, and so much of what you're saying I can relate to.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like the visuals and the way you're describing it. And it's very rare in my situation to be like, this person gets it,
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, can you take me back to the start and how everything led up to this crazy crash that you were in?
Yeah, crazy crash. I was a paragliding pilot for 3 years. I got my P3 certification, which is, a step beyond intermediate, and I was kind of getting into some advanced territory there. And had flown for over 100 hours, had over 150, 170 flights or so. And I just got caught in some hairy conditions one day and took a big fall. Yeah. So basically what happened is I was gliding and my wing went into collapse into a stall mode behind me and crushed into a paper ball. And I fell 85 feet into the mountainside and was able to survive that.
Dude, you're a walking miracle.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. But it's not only like that accident that happened, like there was some things going up leading up to what you felt that day, right? Like for me, the whole day, something kind of felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it. Like I was, looking at the weather charts. I was looking at the plane. I was looking at the instruments. Everything looked good, right?
Yeah.
But there was just this feeling that like something kind of maybe felt weird. And then of course, when the accident happened, it totally felt like, oh fuck, this is bad. But did you have that feeling of like that day of like, man, I don't know if I feel like I'm in the best? It's like hard to describe, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, paragliding, that sport in general, you have to be really disciplined with the actions. It's not like, oh, let's just go out today and check it out. You have to be really tentative of what the conditions are going to be like, because you're using those conditions to have your sport be made, you know. So
Yeah.
normally I always scan the weather like really diligently and looking at all the inversion layers and which way the wind's blowing, the gust ratios, and just really educating and preparing myself for what the conditions are going to be like.
Yeah.
And there was really nothing good to flying in July and August, and then my accident happened in September.
Me too,
So
man.
so
God
yeah,
damn you,
September.
September.
Damn you, September.
Right.
There was no conditions to fly in. So once it did happen, it looked like it was going to be good. We all went out. Everyone and their mom was out there, and we went to a flight site on the coast where here at Torrey Pines in San Diego, where you're flying on the coastline, and it's just kind of like a zip line that you can fly down, turn around, and come back.
That's pretty cool.
And it is really beautiful, and it's cool to fly over the ocean like that. But it's really easy to fly in the because you're just getting the wind that's coming off the sea and ramping up off the cliffside there. So, but you have to kind of stay on that zip line. But there was so much traffic there, and everyone came out to fly, and so we were always looking over your shoulder, and it was just kind of chaotic. And I decided to land. And I was like, I'm not having fun. This is nuts. And some of my friends were like, hey, let's go out to another flight site that's not too far away. And I was like, that sounds like the right move. And I had never, since I was really eager to fly, I didn't really back check the conditions and what was going on. And went out to the other flight site. We hiked up to the top of the hill. It's probably like an 800-foot climb or so to launch site. Made the bed, got all my lines straight and everything, and launched, got in the air, and it felt kind of like what the air, the conditions in the air felt like. And I started getting socked into the corner of this mountain and getting pushed back with some really rough air. Because, you know, it's my wing flies at like, cruises at like 21, 23 miles, an hour, and it'll just glide down the bottom. So if there's wind that's more powerful than 20 miles an hour, then you're going to get caught and you're going to start getting pushed back.
Right.
So
right.
it was kind of gusty that day and uneven. But I got pushed into the corner of the mountainside there, and I saw this little hiking trail that I could land down, and I put the wing down, collapsed it real quick so it didn't yank me off the side of the hill.
Right. But it was like last second, right? I mean, I remember when we were talking about this off air, there was a split second decision of like, I don't make this move, it's gonna be terrible. Like for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm done,
Well,
right?
well, I was talking about that. That was my first flight out. So
Oh, okay.
I wrapped up my wing and I was like, I'm ahead of the car. This is crazy. And I walked past launch site and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it one more go. And I opened everything up and went and took another flight. And my buddy and I got caught in it was a pretty big thermal, and we were flying, pigtailing it, just wingtip to wingtip. And
Wow.
I took a asymmetrical collapse. And yeah, that's when everything kind of changed, because normally I've taken a collapse like that at 5,000, 6,000 feet, but then you have time to react.
Right.
You
It's
got
like
time
time to
is on your
recover.
side. You're
Yeah.
actually safer the higher you are up. You think it's a longer fall,
Yeah.
but it's that small window of when you launch
Mhm.
and you don't have time to react. And I was within that range. And that's what happened is it went behind me. I looked down at my instruments. They said I had about 210 feet left. I need about 240 feet to throw my reserve and for it to catch my full body weight.
Right.
So in that instance, I was like, do I just throw my reserve and cross my fingers at 200 feet and hope it catches me? Or do I take this into my own hands and try to wake this thing up and save myself?
Yeah.
And that moment was probably a second or two long, but time was frozen, and I decided to go for it. I was like, I don't want to leave this up to fate or chance it. I'm going to make the bed and wake this thing up and go for it. So I started pulling on my A lines, which are the front lines of the wings, and it rolled the nose back over.
Okay.
And the wing is an air jam, so it needs air to be jammed inside of it for it to inflate.
Got it.
And once I got that nose rolled over, it reinflated and it just came out like a bolt of lightning. Just whoa,
Snap.
bam! Because you can just feel the force of that 32-foot wingspan as it reinflated.
Wow.
But it was behind me, right? When it reinflated, so that yaw force,
Oh, it just threw you forward?
it rocked. The wing had a counterbalance, and I've experienced stuff like this. Big surges, the wing goes, and then you take your big ice cream scoop out and rebalance things, and then you're back at it.
Right.
And it's a roller coaster ride, but you can manage that and know when to adjust it.
Yeah, it's like nothing you haven't experienced before, but just now the situation's a little bit more dire based on your elevation.
Altitude,
Yeah,
yeah.
on your
I
altitude,
mean,
yeah.
yeah. So I know it takes about 150 feet to scoop back out and restabilize. And when that thing went below, it surged out so far ahead of me that I saw the ocean and the horizon line above the wing, and I was like, oh,
You're not supposed to see that.
that's a heavy angle.
Right.
And then I looked down at the ground, and when it surged ahead of me, it kind of yanked me so my lines weren't taut anymore.
Oh,
And I
okay.
started pulling, and I was like, oh, I can't even talk to my wing and recorrect it and throw the brakes back on it. And then I was looking down, and I mean, it was probably like looking off a 6 or 7 story building there.
Holy crap. What are you feeling? Like, can you remember what you're feeling at this moment?
Wow. I just remember the immediate onset of elongating myself and getting really stiff and being like, oh, this is gonna hurt. This is gonna be bad. And kind of like just that moment of fear and how we clench and just like try to brace ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the last ideas that I had in my mind before impact was you hear about those stories of drunk drivers or whatnot
Yeah.
sometimes, and how they're
I know where you're going with this.
they're unconscious, and they're like really limber, and they're
Right.
like,
Your
why
whole
did
body
they
relaxed.
survive the accident? You know?
Right.
And I think it was a response to the fear. And I was just like, what are you doing? Like, all like, you think you're gonna survive, you're gonna
Yeah.
beat the mountain, you're gonna beat gravity?
Right.
And in
Right.
that moment, something just switched for me, where I was just free falling, and I was just like, just surrender, just
Let it go.
have your moment, you know?
Yeah, man. I actually 100% know what you're talking about. And it's crazy. It's like right before we made impact, and I everything was running on instinct at that point, though. Like
Right.
consciously I was thinking, but my body felt like it was just moving. Like I was like backseat to all of my training, everything. And to your point, I remember right before we made contact with the ground, I remember scanning the window and just being like, all right, where are we going to put this thing down? And I'm tense. My whole body's just
Oh, yeah.
tight. And I remember having that same thought, like it had to be in like a half a second, quarter of a second, right?
Yep.
Where I'm like, relax, this is happening. You have this moment of kind of acceptance. And I think because of that, it probably saved my back. Like I still fractured parts of my back, but I think because I kind of was like, and kind of
Yes.
relaxed,
Yep.
I think it did kind of save a lot of my bones, my spine, maybe all of that too.
Right.
And so you have this moment, and then
Yeah.
what happens from there?
Impact. And everything after that I don't really remember. I was unconscious for a while. I was flying with a gaggle of people in our club, and one guy landed. He knew I was out immediately. My friend that I was in that thermal with when we were pigtailing, he witnessed the whole thing, and he witnessed and saw me fall, and he said he's never seen anybody fall like that before, because when I hit the mountainside, I didn't like hit and roll, and what he said, it was like Velcro. And I just stuck to the
Oh,
ground.
yeah.
And he was like, oh, Neil's dead. You can't survive off a height like that.
Yeah.
And he was like, this is bad. And so I had another pilot land, and he was the first one on site, and I was unconscious at that point. And our club president actually has a heart condition, and he had landed at a safe landing spot a ways away from my crash site and was hiking up the hill and had to take breaks to not elevate his heart so much. And he had
Right.
just sheer courage and determination to come
Get to you and see if
to
you could
get to
help.
me. And I've talked with him obviously a bunch, him being the club president, and I must have recognized his voice or whatnot, because that's when I became conscious again. Was he's like, "Oh, Neil, are you okay?" And I sat up apparently, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine." And I started, and they're like, "No, no, no, like don't move, don't." And they turned my harness so I wasn't gonna roll off the side, and got me kind of comfortable being there. And later on, I had spoke with my doctor, and at that point, my L2, my spinal bone had been ejected from my spine and completely
Oh
shattered, and
my
L3
God,
was
dude.
broken half, and 9 other bones were broken.
Oh my God. How do you get this information? Is it from your doctor at this point, or who's the first person that gets this news?
Yeah, my doctor had it, my wife had it, and I had heard all this after my surgery in the hospital, but I was on a cocktail of pain medications, and
I hear that, man.
honestly, like those 4 weeks afterwards were just such a blur. But I owe it to those guys relaxing me and keeping me calm on that site, because I was at my most vulnerable point during that moment, and if I would have tried to get up or twist my
Hmm.
spine, I would have instantly been paraplegic, because I have something in my spinal cord called hypermallesia, which is a scarring on your spinal cord when it is being stretched, and
Oh,
it's kinda like
okay.
a stretch mark on my spinal cord right before it snaps.
Oh my
And,
God.
so I was at a very vulnerable moment, so I owe it to those guys. The reason why I can still get up and walk around and be bipedal.
Do you ever think about that? Like how it could have changed? Like, I mean, the accident is what the accident is, but that this moment, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just doing instinctually what you do, right?
Yeah.
You want to sit up. You want to be like, yeah, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
But then these people, people who may have known you well, maybe not at all, but we're like, no, relax, like just chill. And how that saved what you're able to do now. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I think that it is a human experience, and, I think that we're naturally empathetic to each other. We wanna help each other,
Yeah.
and, I'm just blown away with the courage that it took for them to arrive on the scene way before the medics and the helicopter came in and airlifted me out of there, because they knew how important and fragile that moment was. Yeah, I just owe so much to them.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. It
Yeah.
is truly amazing who kind of shows up for you. Yeah, same thing. Like after my crash, these guys saw it from the highway and like told me to stop, drop, and roll, and like dragged my body away from the plane. And it's like,
Right.
what are the chances? Somebody just happened to be driving down this pretty desolate highway and see that happen.
What is that? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like, I guess that's how it's written, like, the story of our lives. I don't know, like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's so funny because yeah, story of our lives, right? It has that
yeah,
almost cheesy connotation with the
sure,
daytime talk show, but it is kind of true, right?
sure,
Uh,
yeah,
so let's move forward, right? Like
yeah.
this happens, you get airlifted out of there. Are you consciously thinking? I guess what are you thinking? Are you in and out of consciousness? What's happening when you're brought into the hospital? And yeah, I want
I
to hear
mean,
some of
I
those thoughts.
vaguely remember the sound of the helicopter props. Apparently, when I was on the side of the hillside, so that when
Yeah, that gurney kind of thing that they
The
stick you on.
when yeah, when they got me in the cage and whatnot, and I was actually on the ground, I started rotating like crazy. So I was spinning like nuts as they were winching me up. So
Oh my god.
I mean,
They're just insult to injury, literally.
yeah,
Here.
just some real good centrifugal force, after
I
the
mean,
ultimate centrifugal
I mean,
force. Yeah.
hopefully I'm not, I'm laughing at it
Yeah. Well,
because
it's
it's like how
ridiculous. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Not at you,
Yeah.
hopefully you know that, but it's like,
Yeah.
and just like, how could this get any worse, right? Oh, let's just
Yeah.
start spinning you like crazy
It's pretty
as,
bad. Yeah, it's
yeah,
pretty bad. But I make it to the hospital, and I'm kind of in and out, and I have some vague memories of that. But the one moment that I really remember is they're like, "Okay, Neil, you have the option to go into surgery. Like, do you want back surgery, 2 rods, 6 pins, titanium? We'll put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Or do you want to be in a cast for 10 months and you'll have to do a bunch of training and stuff for another years afterwards? And I was
Wow.
just like, that was one of the most terrifying moments of my life. And I was like, "Oh, my back's I'm broken," and I'm still coming to realize, like, how much my life has changed without me even realizing it yet?
I mean, I do. It's so much. It's so much at one time. Like for me, I couldn't even fathom it. I couldn't
Yeah.
even understand, like, wait, what? Like, why can't I move? Why can't I talk? Why can't I, it's like, what the heck? But I mean, for me, once I got in the hospital, I didn't really realize all this stuff. So, for like a month and a half later, but my family was the one that had to deal with, like, hey, he's going to need this surgery. Hey, he's going to need this. But still, that I guess I can relate to that
Yeah, well,
realization.
I think it's like our mental capacity is weaker or inferior to what our heart and our willpower is. And I think in that moment, we don't understand the physicalities or the logistics of what's going on or how things are going to change.
Yeah.
But in beneath all of that is still that willpower to live and to be human. And it has been severely suppressed. And that is really the ticket of getting back out of this once something severe or damage or a crash or something like this has
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
And you have to access that and awaken it again, or else you're buried, you're done,
Yeah.
and your life will severely be put off track.
Yeah, man. I can relate to so much of what you're saying, and it's so insightful too that you've been able to kind of process it this way because you have to make this super hard decision, right?
Yeah.
That could possibly determine how your body works the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
I believe you went with the surgery, right?
I went with the surgery. I'm
Okay.
titanium back boy.
There you go. Hey, I got titanium
Yeah,
hands, so
let's go.
you
Yeah.
know, yeah, half Iron Man, I guess, in some
Yeah.
ways. So
I
that
was like, I
works.
like the cyborg thing. Let's do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, at the time, it's like such a big decision you got to make in such a short amount of time without your brain functioning in a normal way, how
Yeah.
you would normally think about decisions. And I think that's the thing where I hear people sometimes and they're like, well, if I was in that situation, I'd do this and this. And it's like,
Right.
bro, you like, I hear what you're saying,
Right.
but you really never know what you're going to do and how you're going to act when you're in this type of situation. At least
Yeah.
that's how I feel. I feel lucky in some ways and kind of amazed and not like trying to toot my own horn about how I reacted in this situation in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Granted, after the hospital in recovery, I was a mess. I was just completely wrecked, emotional, like
Yep.
all over the place. But in the moments when things were happening, I felt like, man, I did an okay job. But you make this decision, you have the surgery,
Yep.
your wife comes in at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I had always text my wife every single flight after I had landed. Hey, back on the ground safely. Don't, I know I'm running off cliffs and jumping off cliffs and stuff, but I'm safe on this one.
Yeah.
I know it's getting old after hundreds of text messages. Hey, I'm back. And I let her go. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go fly today. And she's like, go for it. Have a blast. I hope you have a great time. And after a few hours, I mean, there's been long flights. I've had 3, 4 hour long flights before, but she's like, oh, he's not texting me. He's not calling and she looks where my ID is, where my location, and she sees that I'm at the hospital nearby and it's a dot hovering over the hospital. And she's like, oh, that's weird. And she calls them and she's like, is Neil there at the hospital? And they're like, we don't have anybody by that name, but we have an unknown John Doe from a paragliding accident at our hospital. And she just translated John Doe as like, oh, we have a dead person at the hospital. And I mean, I just can't imagine the wave of pain and fear that she must have felt.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, yeah. I've talked to my wife about it, who's just my girlfriend at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that pure shock and terror. Like, yes, we had to go through what we went through, but our partners in this situation, like having to hear what happened to us and then just be like, now they're running on fight or flight in their own way
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like, it's something I still feel bad about, I think, with
Yeah,
my
well,
wife, you know?
and I mean, I think she has a really disciplined mind too, so she really locked into place and was like, "Okay, bunker down, be his support system, help him out through the hospital. No one's looking over him, like get the papers and whatnot." But I think it makes you understand of like all of our actions throughout our entire day are affecting people around us, whether they're good or bad. And when something happens to us, it actually happens to the other people around us too. And again, it's this human connection. It's this shared human experience. We're connected in that way, you know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
It's funny, like you're taking us to the moment, but I also feel like you're taking me to what you're learning now. And I love that you
Yeah.
made this connection, you know, but I'm sure it wasn't an easy process. Now you have the surgery, you have to like actually heal up.
Yeah.
But your mindset, I'm assuming, is not where it is right now.
No, no. And I think it took about probably a month or a month and a half for me to flip the switch on that because I was in the hospital for I think 11 days, and then I came home, and I remember we pulled up the car, and the front door to our house is probably 150 feet away from the driveway, and it took me about 45-50 minutes to get to the house, and brought out a chair, and I had to sit on the chair for a little while, but I'm in excruciating pain. My pelvis broke in 2 different spots. My sacral bone broke in 2 different spots, broke 2 ribs, shattered my shoulder, broke my orbital bone in my skull, and I was on a walker and a spinal brace, and it was difficult just to get in the door.
Look at you now, though, by the way. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you look amazing,
Thank
dude.
you so much.
And the way you're moving around before and
Yeah.
everything now, like, it's almost hard for me to believe. Like, I know it happened to you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm seeing you say this, and it's like I'm looking at you as you walk in the room. It's like I can't even
Yeah.
fathom you're looking so good now in your attitude. But
Yeah.
yeah, anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to derail
No,
it. I'm just
no.
like,
Well,
I'm amazed.
it makes me think of like when we experience other people in our day-to-day interactions, and maybe somebody's not having a good day and we're like, "Oh God, they're being real angry." It's like you have no idea what other people are going through, where they've come from, what their story is. It taught me to be a little bit more patient with each other, you know, like
Yeah.
instead of just being, "Oh, this guy cut me off. Maybe he's in a hurry to rightfully get somewhere." Like
Right.
I'm a little bit more patient with people now too, you know, and I give people a little bit more grace because I have no idea what happened to them, you know, like me being slow in the grocery store or whatnot, and like taking my time, like, "Oh God, this guy's in my way." I'm like, "I'm sorry, I have a broken back. I'm recovering from a major accident. Like, sorry."
Yeah.
You know, so it just gave me so much more perspective like that. But
Yeah.
Thomas, it
Can't agree
wasn't
enough.
I was on a cocktail of pain medications, and came out of the pill farm and was on everything, and rightfully so. You know, you gotta kind of manage your pain. But I remember there was a turning point, like a month and a half into it, where I was just eating pain medication, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it felt so good for the pain to be gone, you know,
Oh yeah.
because
Oh yeah.
you just take a pill and that's all it took.
Yeah.
I'm at ease now.
Well, it's so interesting you say that. You know, I never taken medication really ever my whole life. I was like, oh, you know, I don't need pain medicine. Maybe took like Tylenol here and there, right?
Right.
And yeah, you go in the hospital, and then I'm much like you, plugged into everything, right? I'm on
Yeah.
ketamine, Dilaudid, fentanyl, like all this crazy.
Dilaudid, fentanyl,
Right.
morphine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it
Whoa.
was wow. But I've never been addicted to anything. The
Yeah.
only thing that I ever felt like I was slightly getting used to was the Dilaudid.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there was this time I go out of the hospital, like I'm off of it, I'm not having, and I remember having this thought of like, man, if I got to have Dilaudid one more time, that would be awesome.
Right.
And I'm like, that's such a weird thought to have. And then
Uh-oh.
I did have to go back in the hospital. I got resubmitted in the ICU.
Okay.
And that first night in there, they're like, hey, do you want a shot of Dilaudid? And I was like, yeah.
Like it's a drink or something. You're like, yeah, I'll
Right,
take
right,
one of
right.
those. You're like,
Yeah.
The
No, no, no.
behavior is changing,
Yes.
like,
Now I think it's a problem, right? But back
of
then I was like,
course.
oh, I need this. I'm in such bad pain.
Yeah,
But the blessing of it was that it actually didn't like work really well. It made me feel like more, I don't know, a better way to say it's kind of icky in a way. Like it didn't
sure,
sit right.
sure.
And I was like, I'm never using that again. And then I
Yeah.
didn't. But I guess I understand a little bit more of like why people could fall into addiction now, which I'm like, I've never been that way. But now it's like you just want some relief.
It feels good.
Yeah, yeah,
Why
it
would
does. It does.
why
But
I mean, it does feel icky and weird and toxic, but it's like it feels good. Why would you wanna stop something that feels good?
right.
And it takes a mental capacity to figure that out because I realized when I was off it, I was developing pain and aches in areas of my body that weren't related to my injury. And
Right.
I started aching and everything felt bad. And it only felt good when I was on it. And it was just on and off and on. And I was like, oh, I need it. And I had friends that, had a job, wife and kids,
Yeah.
and broke their back and got on some pain pills. And a year later, they left their family and now they're smoking heroin. And it's just
Wow.
bye.
Yeah, that's something they don't tell you about this recovery process, right? Like we're obviously dealing with all the mental side and like what's life going to be like and what are my relationships going to be like and who am I and all these things, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing they don't tell you is like after you have taken pain medicine for so long and you start weaning off of it,
Yep.
that everything feels more sore again.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like all of a sudden everything feels more painful again. And you're like, what? I'm getting better. I'm supposed to be healing. Like my body, like
Yeah.
doctors are saying I'm on the right track. But why do I feel so sore all of a
Yeah. Yeah.
sudden? It's like this increase of pain getting off of the pain medicine. And that's an
Yep.
added obstacle, I think. So kudos to you
100%.
for moving through this, man.
I knew it was gonna take me out, and something clicked in me where I was like, "Get off this." Like,
Mm-hmm.
instead of comfort and this feels good and masking the pain,
Mm-hmm.
knock it off and lean into the pain and get exposed to it. And I hated it and it was very challenging, but I realized that I was so much better when I could feel the pain and I understood the limitations of my movement and how my body could move. And I think that's when I radically changed and got better, is because I was like, I'm not going to sit here in this jacuzzi soup, red Laffy Taffy velvet. Ooh, yeah, this is nice. I was like, I'm gonna get out. Yeah, right?
I'm thinking of
I
Get
don't
Him to the
know.
Greek where he's like petting the wall.
Sure.
The furry wall, the fuzzy wall. He's like, ooh.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
perfectly painted that picture for me.
Yeah, I mean, morning, noon, and night, just in that. But when I made that decision to lean into the pain and associate with it and identify with it, that's when I was like, okay, I can sit up out of bed. Oh, I can walk with my walker now. And it wasn't until I made that first trek down the street of where I lived and I touched this telephone pole. And then I turned around on my walker and I walked back, and it took me a million years to get back home, but my wife was there spotting me. And that's when I was like, okay, you can do this. And it was just this little tiny grain of sand. But like I said, it reignited that willpower underneath that dormant thing. And the mental started kind of clicking in after that of like, this is going to be challenging. It's day by day. It's literally step by step.
Yeah.
And that's when the big gear just slightly started turning. And I was like, okay, I got to turn all these little tiny small gears to get this big thing to start moving again.
I love what you're saying about leading into the pain. And
Yeah.
one thing I think my accident taught me is like, there's always kind of gonna be pain. There's always like something, I mean, we both come from like sports backgrounds,
Yeah.
but there's always something, anything worth doing is going to take some struggle. It's going to take some effort. And I think pain can be a part of that.
Yep.
And through my accident too, like you want to run away from it. You're so scared of how everything hurts. You're like,
Naturally.
yeah, and that
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
You're like, I want to push against it.
Yes.
But to your point, there became this moment, and I still remember it. I had about 100 staples that was going from like the top of my head all the way
Yeah,
back
just
down.
a mohawk.
Mohawk of staples.
Gosh.
Exactly. But I'm sitting there. I
Yeah.
don't get any pain medicine for another hour. And they're like, we're gonna have to take out all these staples. And I'm sitting there and I just like, I start thinking about Weinhoff. You ever thought, that guy who's like created this breathing technique? And so I start just really focusing on the breathing and be like, hey, this pain's going to happen. It's going to come and go. It's going to be
Yep.
a wave. The wave is going to wash up and it's going to wash out.
Yeah.
And I just remember breathing and breathing. And all of a sudden that pain got cut in half. And that was the physical side of it. But there was eventually down the line, and this was years later after I got out of the hospital because I was so mentally messed up. I mean, diagnosed with PTSD and depression. There was this other moment mentally where I was like, I got to lean into this pain. And I can't run away from the fact that this sucks and that my life's changed and that my physical appearance has changed and my job
Yep.
probably is, I think there was another thing. There was a healing moment for me, a part where I got to progress in who I am because I was like, stop running away from this pain and how shitty this moment is.
Yep.
Start just leaning into it and being like, yes, this sucks. How do we deal with this? How do we embrace this?
Face it.
Yeah.
Confront it.
Yeah. And so I just love that you pointed that out because I think there was two elements for me of like the physical pain, but then there was the mental and emotional pain. And then there were two separate times for me, but both progressed me in my healing because I started pushing towards it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like almost magnetism or whatnot. It's like there's just these natural forces that repel each other. And when fear or suffering or pain comes into our lives, we go, oh no, I'm going to go over here.
Yeah.
And I think that when we turn around and those bipolar forces meet, that energy starts to galvanize and we really start charging ourselves up and harnessing what we're afraid of. And we can kind of channel that energy that comes at us and transform it into something different for who we are as people.
That is so beautifully described, man. Like
Yeah.
that is incredible way to describe turning this turmoil into purpose, into
Yeah.
something that, makes your life thrive.
Yeah.
How do you have this? Like, where does that come from?
Where does what come from?
That idea of like, I'm going to turn this pain and suffering into something meaningful, like you said, galvanize it into this force for you. Where did you come up with this thought? Like, how did this develop? Because people would probably look at you or they're hearing this right now and they're like, God, I would never be able to make it out of that situation. I'd give up.
Yeah.
Like, where did you come up with this idea and not give up?
I just had seen this future track of, oh, I can either live this entire life of like, oh, yeah, I'm this way because something happened to me and I'm a byproduct of it. And this pain experience happened to me and it changed me. And I just realized that through the human experience, we're going to inevitably experience pain and suffering and fear on different scales, but I didn't want the pain to define me. I wanted my response to it to define me. And that's another thing that really like clicked, that idea of like, okay, this happened to me, but now what do you do? And it kind of just left the ball in my court. I was like, you want to take the easy way and cry about it, and your whole life is like, oh yeah, I've been affected, or do you want to transform that energy it's coming in vast waves of fear and suffering and the pain and what, or do you want to take this free energy and transform it in rebuilding yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And
Yeah.
there's so much of that I personally can relate to.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's just so amazing that you had this mindset. I mean, this is a conscious thing that you're now telling yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because all of that stuff is so apparent, right? The pain is apparent. The physical
Yeah.
ability is apparent, or loss of physical ability is
Yeah.
apparent. It's, and so it's so easy to just have those thoughts. They're in your face.
Yep.
But what you're saying is like, I'm going to reframe this, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but it's like, I'm going to look at this a different way.
Yeah.
And I commend you. I'm just so impressed that you're able to do that.
Well, I think that when you dip in a little bit into that resilience and you find what that feels like, it is like an emotional blueprint for perseverance, and it changes your perspective. And when you dip into that feeling of having a little ounce of courage, that is contagious, and it just transforms what's around. And you're like, ooh, that's actually the good feeling that I'm after, not physical in the Laffy Taffy Velvet warm noodle soup.
Right.
Like, that's a good physical feeling, but boy, I just caught just a little shimmer of that resilience and courage, and that's actually the feeling that I want to have in my life. And if that's going through months and months and months of rigorous pain and failure and the depression and everything that comes with it, I don't care. As long as I know that I have that resilience, nothing else really matters.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Where do you think that resilience comes from? Was it from somebody that you grew up with? Was it from a family member? Was it from a story you heard? Or like, do you just feel like you were inherently, that's always been a part of you?
Yeah, I don't know if it's inherently. I mean, I had a lot of childhood development and struggles and whatnot, and I had a little bit of experience with that, but I'm not quite sure. I don't know where that really comes from and why some people have it more than others. I don't know really where that comes from. And I think that is just a greater mystery of life. Is like, we think we know ourselves, but there's this treasure chest of motivation and all these mechanisms inside of us that really aren't awakened until challenge is put upon us.
Yeah.
And it is when that challenge is put upon us that's when you really figure out who you are.
Right.
And you really figure out that the decisions that you made are going to echo for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Through this moment, though, what did you discover about yourself before your accident that you're like, you know what? I thought this was serving me. I thought this was making me me or making me a better me, but it wasn't. And then what are the other things where you're like, I thought that didn't matter, but it matters so much more now?
I mean, before I just built this whole identity. I was like, I'm a paragliding pilot. I know the weather. I'm hike mountains. I do all, and it, like,
I know
I
that feeling. Even the
right,
voice you're saying is like
right.
how I would
Sure.
describe myself
Sure.
pre-accident, like I'm a
There's
pilot.
yeah.
I do jujitsu. I
Right.
snowboard. Like, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Like, I am all these things. And there
Right.
is a 6'4" Neil behind, like, you're a big guy. And you're like,
yeah.
you're like, why am I letting this voice dictate who I am? And there was like, yeah, you are all these things. But I think after the crash, there was a much smaller whisper, like this gentle, kind person of myself, whatever, approached me and was like, you got it. You can do it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like this loud, reassuring voice. It was like this keyhole opportunity of like, if you're patient and you see this, you got it. It's not this billboard sign, come on down to the most ultimate person of yourself,
Yeah.
It's like this small message that was this crumpled piece of paper that was
They just
on
slide over to you.
just slid over to you, like,
Yeah.
you got it, And I think that's those kind of messages that we receive in our life are absolute gold because they can easily be overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
They can easily be like, I didn't even hear that. I have all this noise and this chatter in my head. I know who I am. It's like
Right.
the quiet mind really can hear all of those details.
The quiet mind can really hear all those details. I love that, man. I agree. The internal dialogue for me, you're so right, has become so different.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm going to be this badass pilot. I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to go on these adventures and all this stuff.
Right.
And I still, that part of me is still there. Like I still want to
Sure.
do those things, but the way things come to me now and let me know I'm on the right path
Sure.
is quieter. It
Yeah.
is subtle. It is, hey, this is a moment you should enjoy.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a second, like you should just appreciate, man. Or, God, the weather's so good. Like, just take a second before you storm in somewhere. You got to go do this and that. Just like, look how awesome this is. In a way, is like, it's so wonderful. I love it. It also has made me feel a little bit different sometimes than people because I am a little slower, not just because I just am slow, but it's like I feel like I'm taking so much more in. Is
Yeah.
that kind of the way you feel about it too, or how would you describe it?
Yeah, well, I think that we go through our lives with so much mental chatter of what if, I don't know, am I making the right decision? Is this the right move? I don't know. And there's just all this mental chatter of fear mongering or what could happen or what should happen. And we live a lot of our lives in that storm, that chaos. Maybe we're composed and we look good, but it's just nuts going on inside of our minds. And I think that when you hit rock bottom and you look at the whole way you have to take to claw your way out of this, I think that all of those superficial fears that you had lose their power over you.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what really allows you to have that quietness again. You're like, oh, I went through something really challenging. That's not going to have power over me now,
Right,
you
right.
know?
Yeah, I hear you. I always want to say basically, it's like I don't want to be judged on my worst day. I want to be judged on my best days, right?
Right.
And the only way you can get to those best days for us has been to overcome everything that's happened on our worst days. But it's step by step. And yeah, I love it. I just feel
Yeah.
like I'm speaking to someone who completely understands
I
and
feel the same way, Thomas.
okay.
I
Yeah,
I
right
I,
on.
I really do, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm blown away with you too. And it's
Thank you.
almost like real recognizes real too. Because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I
I feel
know what
that.
you went through and
Right.
I have respect for you. And moreover, like I know that there's people out there all over the world that are having challenging experiences and we need to show just a little bit more humanity and respect other people around too, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's really that's what I want to give because I received such a big message of just appreciating how the wind will hit a tree and the leaves will kind of
Yeah, just
twinkle
shake.
around and I there's so much joy and vivid color that is brought back into my life now and I don't know what to do with all of it, you know? Like
Right.
I have to hand off a little bit of it to somebody else and it's not just be happy, be thankful that you're still alive.
Right.
It's like no, this is how we should be spending our time with each other day in and day out. You know, it's just giving a little bit more care, a little bit more attention, being a little bit more human. It's so easy to get caught up in the chaos and the information overload. You know, like I think that we're just surrounded in this sea of information, just and we're just starving for an ounce of wisdom. You know, like we just want one little nugget. And I think that's what I experienced with the just coming into contact with the courage, with the resilience. I was like, oh, this is a shiny gold ball. And this actually has a lot of value. And I don't know how to quite access it yet, but wow, is that contagious in that way?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
How do you then share this? How do you go about it? Because this is an amazing story. Your outlook is so impressive. Dude, I'm so fired up. I'm ready to run through the
Yeah.
wall, but like,
Let's run. Well,
well,
I
it's like,
can't really run yet, but
yeah,
let's
yeah, yeah.
speed
We'll
walk.
do it fast.
Let's
Yeah,
speed
yeah.
walk.
As fast as we can. How do you channel this now? Like, I'm fully on board. I know this feeling that you're talking about. I still want to be a part of the world in a way. I don't want to come across as like some preacher or like,
Sure.
be like live every moment like it's your last, becoming like a
Right.
walking slogan. So
Exactly.
how do you channel these things in your daily life now? And
Yeah.
let's talk about where you're at,
Sure.
because I think you're just still doing amazing things.
Well, first of all, I mean, I channel it into this mic on a podcast like
There
this
you go.
because you've developed a platform like this to give people the opportunity to talk about these struggles and challenges. And I think that with modern devices and media being spread over, that is an enormous breakthrough that we can have the experience of sharing these stories. First of all, thank you. That's huge.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, but you want to jump on the rooftops and shout and like, live every day like it's your like enjoy this life.
Right,
Yeah,
right, right.
yeah.
But that's not gonna
But
work.
it's
Like,
not gonna work. So
yeah.
I really think instead of like outwardly expressing this joy now, what I do is I just give people more time. I actually listen to people a lot more, and I enjoy. I'm like, oh, and I try to find where their challenge is and their perspective, and I go, okay, I think I know. I feel where you're at here. I know, and I think that that's just what we need more of in this world, is just people listening to each other. Like that's what's so beautiful about a conversation, is this give and take.
I completely agree with you, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we are so overloaded with things, and
yeah,
we feel like we have a million things to do, and probably a lot of us do, but we also forget like we only have this moment. And we
yeah.
really only have this second to engage with someone. Like, you're going to have to go off. You're going to celebrate a wonderful birthday this weekend. Like, you got
That's
your
right.
wife. Happy
That's right.
birthday.
Thank you,
Yeah, yeah.
Thomas. Appreciate that.
But right now is like we get to have this conversation. And
Yeah,
I get to just listen and take so much wisdom from you and your experience. But it's like after, you're gone back home, I'm back home. We don't have that anymore. Like, yes, we can re-listen to the conversation, but I'm so yeah, I just feel like so much more locked in sometimes to moments
yeah.
in this way where I almost feel like I'm in a bubble. Probably drives my wife nuts.
Sure,
Sorry, babe, but
sure, sure.
it is special,
It's
and
extremely special. Yeah,
it is,
because
yeah,
I just
it's
think
wonderful.
about the amount of time that has happened in the solar system, in the universe,
Right.
and that we're here for such a short period of time. But it's like when we're gone for way longer than we are from where we exist. I just try to invert my perspective, not like I'm here, I'm in the moment, I'm living my life. I'm like, actually, you're not here for a lot longer. Like, this is just infinitely precious and valuable, whatever you're doing, just the experience of life.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
man.
that's what it is you don't have to shout on rooftops and be like, convince everybody how special and valuable this is. It is this small message blowing on a piece of tumbleweed, and you either get it or you don't. It's not, it's not a billboard sign. It's not nothing like that. It's take it or leave it. You either see something in this life or you don't. And there's no virtue or moral against any of that either.
I love it. I feel like that applies in so many areas of life too,
Yeah.
but yeah, the take it or leave it mentality. I love that. And it's something I want to hold on to more
Yeah.
because there was so many things in my past before my accident where I was like, well, I got to make this happen. I have to do this.
Right.
And it needed to be a certain way. Like the outcome needed to be this way. And I was
Right.
so stuck. And then when it wasn't, I wouldn't be happy. Like there was licenses I got in the flight school where I was like, okay, I got it. And everyone's like, yeah, you did it. You passed. And I was like, yeah, it's fine, but I have another one to do. Or like, I don't really like how the check ride went. Like, yeah, I got my license, but I'm not happy about it. And it's
Yeah.
like so crazy because if I had looked at Thomas a year before, now like going on this journey
Yeah.
of becoming a commercial pilot, it's like, wouldn't you be so thankful, dude,
Yeah.
that your life has changed around? And
Yeah.
yeah, I just kind of love it. I feel like, yeah, I just really appreciate what you're saying.
You have to, because same thing. I looked back a year, if I would have looked back a year and like, Neil, you're up in the clouds with nothing but an overglorified tent and some Kevlar strings
Yeah.
flying in the sky over a remote mountain range.
Mhm.
Like, wow, dude. And luckily I had, a moment to reflect and sit with that too, because I had a lot of challenges afterwards with my identity of who I thought I was without all these external reassurances that I am the snowboarder, I am all these things.
Yeah.
When the identity gets stripped down, it's really challenging of who you actually think you are when you only got 2 or 3 cards to play in your hand instead of 12. It takes a lot to look back on that. But the truth is that we did have those experiences. They did happen to us, and there was an enormous amount of beauty inside of all of those. And some people don't even ever have that chance in their entire lives, or a lot of people don't, and there's just be thankful for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, man.
Yeah.
I love it. So I only have like a few more questions, but you kind of talked about identity right there.
Yeah.
How do you think you rediscovered this new identity or the identity that was maybe buried by all this other stuff?
Yeah, well, I think that we go through our lives trying to put something together, and we're like, this is who I am. I'm this, all my Lego pieces, I'm this, I'm that. This is who I am. And I think what I really realized is that once all that gets stripped away, is that even if I think that I am this, tomorrow it's going to slightly change, and the next day it's going, and 5 years from now it's going to be different too. So who I really think I am is, I don't want to say it's an illusion, but it's just it's constantly transforming. I mean,
Hmm.
physically, we know that our cells are regenerating our body, and we're taking in a breath and we're leaving a breath. So physically, we're transforming. I think mentally we're transforming too. And maybe there is this special little thread that is within us that is eternal. But I just think that I did have that identity crisis. But then I realized that, you know what? I'm going to look back 10 years from now and be like, that's who I was then. This is who I am now. And I'm always changing.
Man.
And that kind of acceptance put me at ease. I was like, okay, I don't have to be this whitewater rafting, paragliding adventure guru.
Hmm.
I can be the gardener too,
Yeah.
and go bird watching,
Yeah, yeah,
and get my
exactly.
AARP membership and just chill out on my front porch with my glass of tea. Yeah,
Yeah,
we can
exactly.
we can be whoever we want to be.
Yeah.
We can change it. We have a new day to slightly adjust something. And that identity is always kind of is malleable in a way.
Man, I love that. I
Yeah.
love it. And it's probably, that probably was a big realization for you too, but I think it's a good reminder for people, like what you put out or who you think you are is kind of created by you. And it is possible to change. It is possible to be more than that, or to have other elements of yourself that maybe you show others, maybe you don't, but is there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just love that, man. I think it's a
Yeah.
great perspective.
Yeah.
All right. My next thing is, and you
Okay.
kind of, I think, touched on it,
Okay.
but it's like, what is giving you the most peace right now?
uh
Is there something? Yeah,
no,
you're
I
thinking
no,
about. You're
no, no.
like,
I'm just like
you're like
like
bubble baths. I can't say that.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
It's bubble baths. It
okay,
really is.
okay.
No. I don't know. I guess my wife got me into bird watching, and I we go out and go on hikes and get out in the environment, and it reminds me of my days of paragliding, like being out on a hike and whatnot. It closely associates, and to spot a bird and to see, maybe it's a soaring bird, maybe it's something that pecks on the ground, maybe it's something that patiently waits in the water. And I see all these different identities and these motives of all these different kind of birds, and that has really kind of like allowed me to have a little bit of peace and comfort. And the fact that they're all flying, and there is, I was like, that looks like they're having a really good flight. Or I can see that this is a thermal that is in this hot field, and it's getting pushed up on the hillside, and it's getting released, and they're in that thermal and they're soaring. And that brings me a little bit of relief to know that it doesn't have to happen to me. I don't need to have that experience. These forces of nature are always happening around me, whether I'm involved in them or not.
Man, that is just such a,
Yeah.
like a giving mentality, because you're like, even if others, and we even extend it further to animals, even
Yeah.
if they're doing something that I'd enjoyed, like you get the satisfaction from it.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. That's
Yeah.
really special. I just appreciate, that's like almost monk like you're talking to me. I'm like, I feel like I'm in a monastery
Yeah.
listening
I
to a
just
monk
got my
talk.
spoon and my reading glasses, and that's all.
There you go. You
Yeah.
just stare at the wall for
Sure.
24
Yeah.
hours
Yeah. Yeah.
straight.
Yeah.
But it is really special, man. And I
Yeah.
think that is wonderful. And I could see why that would give you peace.
Yeah, just the birds of flight, like that has really just a moment. And I, you're on a walk, and I can feel the wind against my face, and I go, oh, I know that's a 7 mile an hour east facing tailwind if I'm facing this way. And I'm like, yeah, 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 like it's this crazy adventure and this natural force that I'm in. And that really is being in that Laffy Taffy velvet soup of the chaos and the wonder of nature. That's where I want to be.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's just natural. It's for free, really.
It's
Just
for
go out
free.
there and feel it.
Yeah.
So you said so many wonderful things, and your story is absolutely harrowing. And the way you've kind of transformed this, I just commend it so much. But for somebody who is in their lowest moment right now, they're at their crash, they just realized what happened.
Yep.
What's one piece of advice you can get them to start moving out of their lowest moment?
I think that when you're at your lowest moment, you have this perspective. You actually have the bandwidth now to experience great joy. When something good happens to us and we're kind of just idling through life and we're like, oh, that's really nice. Thanks. I appreciate that. But when you've experienced the bad and how horrible and messed up it can be, now you have that whole vocal range of understanding what good actually is. And when it's good, it's not just like, yeah, it's nice. It is absolutely precious. And I think that when you're at your low and your rock bottom, you now have a very special lens of seeing so much more of life than what others have seen when they're kind of just idling through it. And take advantage of that perspective and use that to grow and change. Yeah.
And that is phenomenal. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like I could give any better piece of advice. Neil, it's been absolutely incredible chatting with you today. I don't know. I want to give you the floor to kind of promote anything if you have a project going on or anybody you want to shout out and just who's been a part of your journey. You're so super thankful for them. Please, yeah, man, take it away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously the people that surrounded me, close friends and family that came to support me and whatnot was enormous. A lot of my coworkers came out and showed a lot of really good care and whatnot that really zapped me back to life. What's important too is USHPA is the United States Hang Gliding Paragliding Association too. They're always really keen on safety tips and proper preserving flight sites and whatnot. That's easily kind of overlooked, but I think that they're a great organization and program that promotes safety in flying, and without them, it would be a much crazier sport. USHPA's a good one, and the close people around you that just feed your soul, you know?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right, Neil. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, brother. Thank you for your time. God, so much wisdom in
Yes.
this one. I'm blown away by it. Thank you for coming here and chatting today. You're the man. Bring it in.
Thomas,
let's
right
do
on.
this.
Thank
Let's
you
do
so
this.
much. Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Sick Burn Podcast. It was an honor to have Neil Karstetter with us, sharing his incredible journey of recovery and transformation following a near-fatal paragliding accident. Neil's story is a testament to the power of love, support, and unyielding positivity, illustrating how one can find profound personal growth and a new perspective on life, even through the most challenging times. If you enjoyed our conversation, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, which we greatly appreciate, and share this episode with someone who could use a little inspiration. Follow us on all social media channels at SickBurnPod to stay up to date on upcoming episodes, weekly inspiration, and behind-the-scenes content. Join us next time as we continue to explore more incredible stories of overcoming adversity and finding the bright side of life's darkest moments. Aloha.